Yeah, we need to not all be normal.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? And I like being a bit weird in some ways, and as musicians, as creative people, we need to push the envelope with being idiots.
Yeah,
and being a bit crazy and getting romantic and emotional and going back to what I'm missing that connection.
Yeah.
That emotional thing that us musicians have got. We're all in touch with our inner delicate selves, aren't we?
Absolutely. Even if we're being inwardly delicate while smashing the shit out of something in front of tens of thousands of people.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like I'm smashing the shit out of it. It looks like I'm aggressive, but ultimately that's a demonstration of love.
The feedback I always give everyone is you need people to make and do things, less writing.
Yeah.
Get them to make a mess in a safe environment, because if you do something wrong in music, that wrong might be the creative idea for it to turn into something amazing.
Well, that's the Mars Parker thing. Yeah, completely. I mean, that's the best way to learn as well. The mistakes are gifts.
Yeah.
I mean, not just in terms of it possibly being a creative moment of genius. The Miles Davis thing, sorry, not Miles Parker. It's some kind of
Miles Parker.
Miles Parker. I don't know
Miles Parker.
Yeah. I had a beer at my friends on the way home. Maybe that wasn't a good idea. But so that idea being a happy accident, but also making that mistake, getting that look from the guitarist when you kind of you make a mistake while he's soloing. Those are the moments where you go, oh shit, I won't do that again.
Yeah.
Okay. And for me, that's golden. Those moments when you make a mistake, you learn something from it, and you've improved, you've grown as a musician, as a person.
Yeah.
So. And that's my excuse when I fuck everything up, of course. I'm growing.
I'm learning.
I'm growing, darling. Yeah. I'm getting better. Thank you for being on my journey.
I remember one thing, just talking about, making a mistake and never doing it again. It's like early doors playing with Paul Weller, and we were doing, it was like some independent radio station, and it was a shitty little venue in Camden. Even though he's like a fucking megastar. And up to that point, we'd always do a song called Porcelain Gods and go into a song called Walk on Gilded Splinters.
Wow,
so we'd done the sound check, and I was like, I'm going to nip off and get my hair cut. So I did. Whilst I was out and having my hair cut, Paul and the rest of the band said, no, let's do Porcelain Gods into Foot of the Mountain, which is in a different key. No one told me. So we do the bit where we normally go into Walk on Gilded Splinters. I'm happily just playing away, not really listening. We've changed key and gone to something else, and I haven't fucking noticed.
I mean, it's just a bass. I mean, how bad can it be?
How bad? Well, it was quite bad.
You want to semitone out or something. Oh, that would have been glorious.
It was quite bad, yeah. And the look I got from Paul, and that was like, oh shit, we're playing a different song. At that moment, I never presumed anything. There's always keep your ears open. Even if you get the songs and the set's flowing as normal, and all the crew are happy and the crowd are great, never take your eye off the ball.
Oh, well, completely. I mean, I think that's in most of my roles as a drummer, I've been, like I say, kind of sideman. Mm-hmm. So I'm in a kind of supporting role. So, people ask me about the Iggy gig quite a lot, and and regardless of how crazy it gets, and he's the craziest dude out, really. Mm-hmm. I'm still always having to be aware of what's going on, because my job in that situation, it's not about me, as much as my little tiny ego would like to think a small part of it was. It's not. It's about us laying a foundation for him to be the best Iggy that you could be on that day. Yeah. So if I get carried away with that moment, which I think I almost did on the very first gig. We did a gig, a venue, a festival called Down the Rabbit Hole. First gig with him, and we were doing The Passenger, and in the middle of it just breaks down to the drums, and of course the whole audience la la la, and it's just that moment of, holy shit! This is. It was a huge crowd, and I'm on stage with Iggy Pop playing Passenger. And I almost, for that moment, I was just like, "This is incredible! This is incredible!" And then almost got carried away. Yeah. And I had to just draw it back a little bit, and that was kind of that was almost one of those mistake moments. Yeah. I didn't quite make it, but it's so easy to get caught in that moment. But as a side guy, I just need to have to be on the ball all the time.
Yeah.
But I mean, how? I mean, I've never really been in as part of a band, part of an actual kind of band member, as it were. I've always been in supporting role. How was that in Ocean Colour Scene? That band was awesome, man.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny because when you're in the middle of it and living it, you you're good.
Yeah.
And we had a long journey because we made an album that no one really knows about. They think Mosey Shoals is the first album. It wasn't. That was the second album. We had to make a god-awful first album, leave a major record label, be on our own for 18 months, cobble together a really shitty studio with the tiny amount of money we had, and become who we were.
Yeah,
and
right.
you know you're good, but it's only when you look back at it and people go, oh, you should see this version of Fleet in Mind or something, one of the songs off Mosey Shoals, on stage in Japan, and you watch it back and you go, fucking hell.
Yeah.
What a band. But when you're in the middle of it, it's like, it's just you and your three mates doing what you normally do. There just happens to be more people each time you do it.
Oh man, I wish I could have seen you guys. I mean, I can't have how old I was when you first coming up, but I mean, obviously the Riverboat song. I mean, as a kind of keen young musician, hearing something that's not in 4/4 for once, was just like glorious, and it's so groovy, and it swung so well, and your bass playing's glorious on it. It's just really, really. It was really exciting at the time. It was good. It was a good time for British music as well, wasn't it?
Totally. And what's funny about Riverboat, the record label wanted another single to lead it, the album campaign, and we were like, no, because we're not going to have any hits anyway, so let's put out something that definitely won't be a hit, so we don't have the embarrassment of not having a hit. We thought, like the underground scene might like it, and a few Oasis fans might find out about it. Fucking hell. And then you're like, oh shit.
Insane. Yeah.
Shit. And that's not even a commercial song, really. So because of that, we were like, oh, we're going to be all right because we've actually got some pop songs on the record, so we'll be okay.
We've hit the jackpot.
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
But so, I mean, going back to what we said, you were never, you obviously played in bands with your mates, I presume, and sort of messed about.
I mean, I did a lot of, I had one kind of band that signed to Universal just before the millennium. With a few kind of guys in it, and a few boy bands, and it was kind of a psyche kind of rock kind of thing. And that, I mean, that was successful as much as it got signed. And I tried to explain to my younger guys that I've taught recently, signing a record deal, when you're young, you think that's it. Yeah. That's just the next small step. And we were with Universal, so pretty much the biggest record company in the world. And the band got swallowed up by the sheer size of that company. So that kind of nearest I got to being successful as a kind of artist, as it were. And after that, I kept trying. I played in original bands, I played in covers bands, I did everything. I just loved playing. But it just, for some reason, the original projects I did didn't seem to kind of get anywhere, unfortunately. But I know I say unfortunately, as a result of that, I've done some most incredible things in my life because of that, so I'm definitely not complaining. But it's an interesting dynamic to see people that have been successful, because I've been playing with Razorlight recently. Did a couple of tours, and Johnny and Bjorn, those guys were huge. And I'm kind of a backseat passenger, just supporting them. But it's interesting to see, I can bounce off and do whatever I want, essentially. I'm not tied to any one band, so it's an interesting thing for me to get my head around. I know what that's like to be super successful, and then it kind of, because it's never linear, is it? No. It's kind of up and down trip. Yeah,
not at all. I mean, what was weird for me was like, because we got signed really, really early, and then we made this album that no one really knows about, and we signed to Polydor, and they had this huge album budget, and every time we were about to finish the record, a new huge record had come out. So it was Screamadelica, then it was Nevermind by Nirvana, and the A&R department were like, oh no, we'll scrap it, we'll bring in a producer who works like that. So we ended up doing that album 3.5 times. By the end of it, we were like, we didn't even know who we were anymore.
Yeah, sure.
And then, as I said, we got off that label, which most bands would never think, oh, let's get off a major record label. It would be like, are you insane? But we had to. So we basically just said, we're going, you can sue us if you want, we're leaving, we're never working with you again. And they were kind of like, Whew, okay, I think. In retrospect, they were probably gutted eventually, but at the time, I think they were thinking, great, we can cross that one off for tax purposes. Right. But then we started just working on our own terms, and like being in that band for 15 years. And people say, why did you leave? And I say to people, all right, you go to an office job or you're working on a conveyor belt in a factory with the same 3 guys for 15 years. When you clock off at 5 o'clock at night, what would you feel like if they came home with you, stayed at your house all day, all night, you had breakfast with them, went to work, days off, you all went out together, then came back and stayed in the same house, rinse and repeat for 15 years, and everyone I've spoken to who's never been in a band go, God, I'd hate them.
Yeah,
that's what's hard with bands is, and then obviously if success starts to go down or suddenly goes up and you weren't expecting it, you get all those weird sort of egos and tensions and crazy shit comes in. And the lifestyle as well, obviously, of the whole adrenaline, the movement, adrenaline. How do you know, just that thing, I was talking to Ben from Two Door Cinema Club, and he was saying they had this touring schedule for 18 months when he first joined the band. The tour finished, and he couldn't replace that adrenaline. And he got so anxious that he almost had a heart attack.
Wow, yeah.
You know, being thrust into that thing, because he was a student at BIM, and then he ends up being in Two Door Cinema Club, and it's like, my mind.
Yeah.
You know.
It's an insane industry for that kind of thing. You know, I mean, I think some people are built for it and enjoy it.
Yeah.
I think I'm probably one of those. I'm pretty much on or off. You know, it's my personality. I'm either completely obsessed with it or disinterested, and I think the kind of music feeds that kind of personality. But I've always, when I come home from the tour, it's the cliche tour bubble thing, isn't it? You know.
Yeah.
It's a hard thing to deal with, and I mean, it's relevant at the moment, really, because we're in the biggest kind of weird bubble that any of us have ever been in. Yeah. It's the longest I've not done a gig for since I was 16. Yeah. But the touring thing, I miss it dreadfully. I love getting on a bus, going to sleep, waking up, and you're at a new venue. You get back on the bus, you load the rider on the bus. You know, you fall asleep, you wake up, and you're at another venue again. Yeah. I mean, that lifestyle for me was just, and is, it's my favourite thing in the world. Yeah. That adrenaline from the gigs, the focus you can get while you're on the road as well. It's not diluted by normal life. No. Maybe it's partly escapism. Yeah. But that makes me happy, playing my instrument and being on the road. And I've done it. I mean, the Iggy thing has been completely different to anything I've experienced before. I mean, Iggy kind of generally tends to do, rather than big long tours, we'll do one day with 1 or 2 travel days either side, so it's really leisurely. Yeah, it's really nice. So I get to come home and relax a bit and then go back out again. But the kind of the regard he's held in these days, in particular, he's kind of like a Keith Richards figure. You know, he survived, which makes him a superhuman being. Yeah. And doing gigs with him around the world, and it's a whole nother level for me. Yeah. You know, it's someone that big, being in the orbit of someone that big and respected is. Well, I mean, you're with Well, you know. I mean, that's. Yeah. Oh, yeah, totally. But there's the whole Iggy and particularly the Stooges thing. Those first 2 Stooges albums are part of my DNA. Wow. Right, I mean, completely. I mean, utterly, completely. And they have been since I first heard them when I was 16 or whatever. I think the singer in Ocean Colour Scene, we were in a different band before we became Ocean Colour Scene. And he had an amazing record collection. So he played with the Stooges, the Velvet Underground. It was the Stooges for me. Those two albums when it was the original lineup before the other guitarists came in and they all went a little bit different. Yeah, yeah. But even to this day, when every single Ashcroft gig, the last hour before we go on stage, the ritual is first Stooges album, second Stooges album. We skip over the track 3, We Will Fall. You know, the 9-minute sort of downer one. But everything else, even TVI, Funhouse, on at full blast. Right. And that's almost a way of getting the excitement. We're excited, but it's also a way of getting rid of the excess excitement. Well, that's really interesting. I mean, it's really great to hear you guys listen to those records, and I mean, those records are it's completely visceral. Yes. The whole thing, it's not. And when I listen to that stuff, and when I've tried to get inspiration, so I'm still trying to improve what we do and what I do with him. Although we've been doing it 5 years, me and Ben, the bass player, will still talk about playing the passenger and we'll be pushing there, pulling there, maybe try this, So there's always room for improvement. But all that Stooges stuff, there's just nothing in there is about musicality or technique. It's all about just heart and dirty and shouty soul.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad call, actually. I think I might start listening to those two albums before we go on as well.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Although, if you were next door to Iggy, because he has his own dressing room, and I'm sure you know his name's Jim in real life, as it were. But as you get nearer to the actual show, the show time, he stops becoming Jim and starts becoming Iggy.
Right. And
it sounds like there's an animal next door. Uh-huh. And literally, you start hearing these sounds, and you can hear him stamping around, and you can feel like the energy and the vibe coming through the walls. And as it increases before we go on, and by the time we get on stage, just before we get on, there's this snarling, crazy. I mean, it's just fantastic. I mean, you've seen Iggy, haven't you?
Yeah, I've seen him. Well, I mean, the first time I saw Iggy, and this was one of the best moments of my life at the age of, how old was I? About 16 or 17. It was on the Real Wild One or Real Wild Child tour. It was when Seamus Bean was playing guitar. So I didn't know Seamus then. So I think the band's it's at the Birmingham Odeon. I'm down the front. I've been to a few gigs now. I know how it goes. I'm down the front. My ticket was at the back, but I'm down the front.
Yeah, it's like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And the band starts playing. I think it was Lust for Life, and then Iggy comes running out, rips his shirt off, gobs into the audience. Like he doesn't gob very far. I'm at the front. It lands straight on my forehead.
You've been anointed. Yeah.
But it gets better. There's a big cheer from the crowd, so he just then throws the mic in the air and leaps into the audience onto my head. I'm like, he spat on me and stage dived on me.
You can die a happy man.
Yeah.
He's never spat on me. He's destroyed my drum kit a couple of times. His energy is just insane.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the fun things that I say fun. It wasn't fun at the time, but at first load of rehearsals, when we first started playing with him, we were at John Henry's, and I think we were running the set. And I've got a couple of weird, surprisingly enough, I've got a couple of electronic things going with some acoustic claps and stuff like that. And we're running through the set, and he changes the set all of a sudden, changes number. And I have to fiddle with a patch quickly. And bear in mind rehearsals, and he runs up to the drum kit and he starts screaming at me, start the song, start the fucking song. He's screaming in rehearsals in my face to start the song. And I'm like, shit, fuck. Eventually start it and we play. And he turned around and winked at me.
Wicked.
And laughed.
Great.
And that was, the lesson was, when we're on stage, I'm going to be a crazy motherfucker. When it happens, don't let it get to you. That was a little test of sometimes I'll scream at you. He introduced me as a evil motherfucker from hell, Mat Hector, which is going to go on my tombstone, by the way, which is the best introduction ever. But he's insane on stage. Yeah. And that goes back to our thing about keeping the focus regardless of the craziness that's going on. Because he is crazy. Yeah. But behind that craziness, there's still, that intellect is still alive.
Yeah, absolutely.
The first time he stage dived when I was with him, he was dancing around the stage and he ran up the drum kit and winked at me, flicked up the mic, turned around and just jumped to the front of the stage. Again, he was kind of smart to it. Yeah. And I asked him about it and I said, that's insane. Isn't it dangerous? How do you think about that? And he kind of said, well, it looks insane, but if you watch who I dive, I never dive on the two weedy guys. So I always spot the two or three with little gaggle of kind of guys that look a bit bigger and jumped on them. So if he jumped on you, he probably thought you were kind of quite hitchy.
His contact lenses must have fallen out at that minute then.
No, you probably thought he looks like take my weight.
But so what was it like? I mean, obviously you said that's a really interesting thing for people because obviously you haven't done any gigs yet. These are the first rehearsals and he's screaming at you as that test. Yeah. But what was it like plugging into that? Plugging into that situation, did he have some musicians with him that had been with him for a while, or was it like a whole new band?
Well, it was a whole new band in as much as it was a new lineup for him to use at that time. But the band, because like you say, that tour you saw with Seamus on, it also had Kevin Armstrong guitar, and Kevin and Seamus were both in this band.
Yeah.
And Kevin's my link with Iggy. Kevin's an old friend who I've played with for a long time now. But both those guys were kind of like veterans of Iggy from that tour that you saw.
Yeah.
So Kevin was approached by Iggy's management to put together a new band. And I think I'm looking for an English band because, you know, English guys, we got our sound.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, we don't sound like those septics, you know. There's a bit of self-effacing humour there, you know. We got a bit of dirt there that the Yanks haven't got, a bit of groove and soul, and he wanted that sound. So he approached Kevin. Kevin called Seamus because obviously Seamus is fantastic, plays keyboards and guitars. Ben Ellis, who was a guy both me and Kevin had worked with before, bass player, was just an easy fit.
Yeah.
You know, Ben was made to play with Iggy. You know, he's got his hands. I kid you not. I mean, I can't see how big he was like that. His hands are like, you can imagine 5 kebab skewers, you know, on a lump of steak. You know, I don't know how he moves his fingers. It must so much blood to run them. But so this Ben was just made for the Iggy gig. And I was kind of the last call on it because they had a drummer in mind. I won't say who. And at the time, I wasn't really a punky rock drummer. And Kevin rang me because he was a friend and said, look, they want me to put together a new band. There's a little crack in the door. You might have a chance at this if you can send me something. So I literally went home, shaved a mohawk in my head, ripped off my t-shirt arms. So I was a bit sold at the time. Got my old Gretsch kit out and just recorded myself, filmed it with a few cameras, beating the shit out of the kit, and that just did the job. So I managed to get the gig as a result of that. So, but going back to your question, so it was kind of a new band, and it was kind of an old band. It's half and half. Yeah. But yeah, it's been incredible. Kevin, who's the MD as well, is just. I mean, his CV is just phenomenal. He was Bowie's MD for Live Aid, Morrissey, Sinead O'Connor, just everybody, McCartney. So Kevin's been he's a genius and a musician. But one of those people that just can't seem to play the wrong thing. Yeah.
It's annoying, isn't it? Because sometimes I seem to play the wrong thing.
Oh yeah, I think you're being polite. Everything I've heard of you sounds awesome, man.
So thank you. So how did you? Obviously, the band was signed to Universal, kind of got swallowed up. So how did you then start on this path? Because you never thought, oh, I'm going to be like a session drummer. But then how did the first thing come in that you go, well, actually, I can do this?
Well, I mean, I think my ego was big enough, or self-belief maybe rather than ego, big enough to think that I was still good enough to do this. I mean, the collapse of that deal and my part in the band was quite a painful thing. You know, my first time really abroad, young guy, you sign a massive record deal and it all goes wrong, and it's kind of a bit acrimonious as well. So I came home and had to have a break from playing, really, because it's... I don't know if you've been in many situations where you're under a lot of pressure continuously. Yeah. And the drum kit had almost become... I mean, I say this with a heavy heart, looking back on it, but it almost become a kind of a torture thing, you know? Right. Every time I was sitting behind a drum kit, we were all under a lot of pressure. So I came home and left drums alone for, I don't know, half a year. Right. And just recuperated. And then just found my love again for it and just got back into playing with local bands and friends. I mean, I did a bit of teaching, did function stuff, you know. I still will do any gig. If I'm available, I'll still do any gig. I think I heard a conversation with Joe Robinson when he said the similar things. If you ring me for a day and I'm available, I'll do it. Yeah. You know, I'll never say no to a gig, which I really liked. So I was doing kind of all kinds of different gigs, but what ended up me becoming more of a session kind of guy was I was playing a wedding, believe it or not, for the head, you know, the TED Talks. Yes. Now the head honcho got married in Tuscany, and it was like a scratch band of session guys, and I was kind of working my way up. And a guy at that wedding, so this is quite a highbrow wedding, was a guy called Thomas Dolby, who was a kind of 80s pioneer kind of genius. I mean, he's another kind of, he's probably like you're doctor. Just an incredible musician. He was at this wedding and just took a shine to my playing. Wow. So, I mean, I firmly believe that's I tell people as well, you know, you do definitely make your own luck. And I was doing a wedding gig on a function, you know, and musicians can be snooty about this kind of thing. But that's what got me, started me on the track again to having some decent success in music again. Because Thomas then hired me for his album we recorded at Real World, which was incredible. And through Thomas, I met Kevin Armstrong, and you know, it's like it's crazy. I'm sure if you to do the same thing, I did this with my degree guys. I drew them a kind of like an A to B path of where I started and how I ended up on this gig, and all the connections that made that path happen. I mean, I was in a drum shop when I was as a Saturday boy. Funny enough, I've met Steve White, and one of your main dudes. I was a Saturday boy in this drum shop called Drumland in Dartford. And Steve used to go there. So my path started in drum shops, then rehearsal studios, then recording studios, then gigs, then playing with everybody I could find that would have me, and eventually ended up me on a stage with Iggy Pop. And that path was all about just playing and meeting people and meeting as many people as I could. And I'm guessing, was it the same for you? Or
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, a lot of the connections that people like early doors that then went on to play with was like through Ocean Colour Scene, and people would see you and they go, yada, yada. But even the connections of how that band got together were through meeting someone and then you meet someone else. I mean, the only reason why me and the singer formed a band before Ocean Colour Scene was because my best mate at school was a bass player, but he was Jewish, and he was friends with the singer, and they had a gig on a Friday. His mum and dad wouldn't let him go. So I was like, you know, being a bit arrogant, I'd never heard their set, didn't know anything about it. This is on the Friday morning. It's only a gig in a pub, but I was like, I'll do it. So they said, all right then. So I turned up for sound check. It's like, what are we playing? A bunch of songs I'd never heard in my entire life, bullshitting my way through it. And then at the end of it, then Simon said, well, he's lost the job then, hasn't he? Wow. And unfortunately, that kid has never forgiven me, because obviously we then went on to become, over the course of, I don't know, you know, quite a few years, and then Mosey Shoals comes out and he's like, bastard. But then through that, then, you know, you meet Paul Weller, and then we're on tour supporting Oasis, and then you get this and you get that, and then you get all the connections, and that's how that kind of flows. And the Ashcroft gig was a weird one though, because I'd met him so many times, and me and Rich were born in the same hospital just outside Wigan, this little place called Billinge, which no one would ever watch. My apology to anyone from Billinge watching this, but you'll know what I mean. No one would ever choose to go there. But it was amazing that we only started working together about 5 years ago, because we've known each other for all this time, and it never entered our heads to work together. And then it was a producer that I knew from doing some other sessions with a guy called Jeff Dugmore, who was quite a well-known drummer guy. And then he recommended me for something, and then the producer said, oh, that was great. Rich is going to do an album. Do you want to do it? And I'm like, Rich who? He said, Ashcroft. I said, oh, for fuck's sake, of course. So, yeah, it's funny how those things go.
I mean, you have to make... I mean, a lot of people, you know, as you get older, they ask people, and as is right, they should ask the old musician, how did you get there? What made it successful for you? How did you become a pro? And it's really, it wasn't overly complicated. It was, you know, getting there took a long time, but the kind of the strategy behind it was just play with as many people as you can, and always be good.
Yes, always,
You know, we'll have bad days, but always your base level should never drop below a certain level. Always be good and just get on with people. And it does happen. You know, I met up a couple of years ago with my first school band. Like, you know, none of the rest of them play now, but one of my old friends, he rang me and said, let's have a little get together. And you know, none of them had gone on to music. You know, I was the only one that had, and it was just doggedness that got me to that, you know, to something that I'd call success. It was just keeping going on, not giving up, keep meeting people, and that's kind of what I've told people when I've kind of been teaching. Just you've got to keep going, you've got to keep loving it. And what is success? Success to some people is not the same to others. Success to me is just playing my instrument and living off of it. That's the other stuff I'm not complaining about. Don't get me wrong. You know, I want the big stages are nice. You know, the occasional Learjet. You know, I'll take that. Yes, thank you very much. But equally, if someone rang me for a gig down the road in the pub now, I'd definitely go and do it.
I mean, I was talking to someone else is, she's a really young artist called Zuzu from Liverpool, and she's fab. She's been through loads of trials and tribulations. And she was, I asked her, why do you keep going? She says, well, because I love making music, and success for her is just being able to make music and not having to do anything else. So, and that's what I've always said to people is like, yeah, as you said, you know, if you get the big things come in, that's awesome. But to never have to do anything else, but just make music for what you do every day. Because as you said, it's not an office.
No,
you're not in a fucking office, you know.
No, not even near.
Yeah, just keeping going.
I've got so many fond memories of the journey, really, and playing drums and depths, not knowing what you're doing. I mean, when I worked in the drum shop, so I was like the Saturday boy that ended up working there kind of Monday to Friday. And they used to pay me, obviously, but I had this book behind the counter, which was basically gear that I'd bought, and then was just paying them back with my wages. And I don't think they ever paid me a penny, and I think I was always in debt for either a cymbal or a snare drum. But I got so many gigs from that, you know, so many debts, because it was a little hub of drummers. And I think my first ever debt was this weird boat gig with these kind of, it was a reading gig, and I turned up, I was about 16, 17 or something, and the old guy, the band leader, was kind of a bit creepy, and we played the gig, and halfway through the gig he was kind of winking at me and saying, that's my wife then, and she's quite like you know, and I'm still trying to play this gig and be professional and, you know, keep my shit together, because I'm still really nervous. And I kid you not, my first ever debt gig, this dude wanted me to have a threesome with his wife. I mean, if that is not an introduction to music, I don't know what it is. And it wasn't even a rock and roll gig, it was a function.
function gig.
That is the beauty of it. You never know what's going to happen.
Absolutely, you never know.
Nothing happens, by the way. I was too scared to think about it. But
well, that's what you're saying now.
I'm sticking to it.
So, like, what's amazing though is like, so we'll talk about some of the other people, but the difference between Iggy Pop and Thomas Dolby.
Oh God, yeah.
I mean, obviously, so the Thomas thing came about, you know, through happenstance.
Yeah.
But what was that like? Obviously, because then you do Iggy, like, it's a different world.
It was a challenge for me. I mean, like I said, you know, Seamus and Kevin had done Iggy before, and Ben just fits that sound straight away. I'm not a natural rock drummer.
Right.
My initial kind of years were more kind of groovy and a bit lighter. So to do Iggy, you know, it took a leap of faith by Kevin for the start. I mean, Kevin was kind of like an older brother, but I had to learn how to try and hit more heavily, try and hit back more on the beat, less on the line, on the grid. I had to become, I mean, visceral was the word we used before, but more kind of thumpy. And it had to look tougher. It had to look harder.
Yeah.
I mean, we watched the first video of the first gig we did, and I'm sitting there. I thought I was waving my arms around like some kind of like Keith Moon, and I was sitting there, and the technique was all a bit too perfect. It's like, oh shit, that is crap. And then you've got the Wild Man of Rock, and then you've got Mr. Morella, perfect technique behind him. It's just, you know, it was just not good. So that journey was quite challenging from that first gig and rehearsals to where we are now. I had to change how I played, the sound I make, the drums I played. Everything got big, everything got loose and messy. It was really tough, you know. It's really tough, and it's changed to how I play now. Yeah, I can't really. After doing it for 5 years, it's become who I am, and to kind of go back to that more kind of dexterous drumming is going to take a refocus at some point. Yeah, but I don't need to do that at the moment. But it's a really interesting challenge. I mean, I kind of changed who I was, because Thomas. I mean, my first gig with him was a huge electronic rig. It was all just pads. Yeah. It was all to click, and everything was very precise. And that kind of suited me a bit more, a bit of a gig, as I say. But then to go from that to ultimately Iggy, that was completely two ends of the scale. I mean, if you've had to do anything like that, have you always done? Because I mean, you've got a great sound, I think it sounds like you all the time. But you ever had to adjust yourself, or?
To some degree. I mean, it's more less so in my playing, I think. but more so in maybe the way I would carry myself on stage.
Yeah, right.
Because with some people, it's like, got to be nice and still. Other people, it's like, they're like, why are you standing still? Come on, let it go. And obviously, like with a lot of like record sort of studio sessions I've done so many different varied things that you just kind of go, well, the reason why they booked me is because they like me as a player, but then I need to adapt what my general way is, which is quite improvised. I don't overthink anything. It's just how I would want it to be, how it makes me feel it immediately, to then think, well, how does their records sound? So you kind of have to adapt it a bit. So then I might go, okay, well, I need to work this, like the middle eight out properly or whatever. Whereas like with other people, it's just like, bleh, just vomit it down, and it's like, that's it, done. You know.
Yeah.
But, so, I mean, do you think that the skill of the Thomas Dolby thing, obviously totally totally different from the Iggy thing, could then feed into the amazing Gutterdämmerung thing?
Yeah, that was insane, man.
Because that, I mean, I've not seen it, but I've seen the trailers for it, and it's just.
I mean, that was. I mean, we were kind of. We started that around the same kind of after a year or so of Iggy, and I mean that for the listeners that haven't heard of it, it's essentially a black and white film with pretty much every major rock star. Iggy's in it, Grace Jones, Josh Homme, Tom Araya, Slash, Mark Lanigan, Henry Rollins, just some incredible people. And so the films, so you go to the gig and you see the massive film screen, and behind that screen is a live band playing the soundtrack. And sometimes the screen comes up and you see the band, and sometimes you see us through the screen. It's an incredible production. But when that came to us as a band, they just had the film and rough ideas of soundtrack. So for me, playing aside for a moment, I kind of built the show file for that.
Right.
So we started off by working out, because there's certain sections where you play half a verse, you go into a chorus, and you stop for halfway through a chorus because there's a gunshot.
Yes.
So you completely sync to the film. So we had to work out how much of each part of the song to play, time it, count the bars, practice it, and make sure we could sync with the film, which, man, I loved.
Yeah, I was going to say, I bet you loved it.
Freaky geek for that kind of stuff. The pleasure I get from that kind of thing is inappropriate, not so much. So we built that. I got to build the whole Logic project because obviously I was the kind of the conduit between the band and the soundtrack, so I had the clip going. Kevin Armstrong was on that as well from Iggy's band. He was the MD, but I got to be the kind of left-hand man to Kevin in terms of the technical side of running the band to the film. So I love that, and I'm still involved. That comes and goes with Damon. They're still looking for the ultimate vehicle for it, I think, ultimate promoter. So the first gig we ever did with that, we were kind of, it was like a showcase thing. We did it, was it Palladium? I can't remember now, so long ago. But we, Grace Jones was supposedly possibly coming. And we started the show, and we said, look, we don't know if she's going to come or not. So we're playing this intricate, timed kind of set to this film, and so we're all kind of concentrating on this. And halfway through the set, we get Grace is here in my ear, and Kevin's like, Grace is here, she's going to play. So this huge statuesque figure with this kind of black cape appeared in the corner on the stage left. And this was our cue. So we kind of stopped halfway through the show and started playing Nightclubbing, which is a song she's covered with Iggy as well. And so we start Nightclubbing, and she kind of wanders on. And she's, how can I put this? She's partook in a few enjoyable extras that evening. And so we're playing Nightclubbing, and she starts singing Nightclubbing, the first line, over and over again. We changed the chorus. She just nightclubbing. She just doesn't stop, and we were like, can she hear us? But the crowd don't give a shit.
Yeah.
It's like it's Grace Jones on stage. We're trying to make something musical out of this, and she's just wandering around gesturing, just being incredible, but just bearing no resemblance to what the band are doing.
Yeah.
So she kind of walks off, we finished, and that was kind of my first gig with Gutterdämmerung. And also
Brilliant.
Henry Rollins was there as well. Henry's become a friend.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
He's just that
like,
guy.
It's like what I was saying about the Stooges, and parallel to that is Black Flag for me. For me, like from listening to the Stooges, then I got into Husker Du, Sonic Youth, Black Flag, and I remember
Taste.
Exactly. None of it's mod either. But anyway, I remember doing this festival. I think it was a Weller, and the Rollins band were next door. And I was like, I've got to go and say hello. I've got to say to Henry how much I absolutely fucking love him. Paul was like, fucking shit, fucking rubbish. Usual sort of thing, you know, too many fucking tattoos, fucking wankers. So I'm going to go in, and all I can hear is this grunting and banging noises. I open the door, and the entire band were in there, stripped to their pants, pumping iron. And I'm like... I can't walk in there and say, hi, hi Henry.
Can I join you guys?
Yeah. Can I just have a picture? So that's amazing. Henry Rollins as well.
He's I mean, the first time I met him, I was like, prior to that, I'm losing track of the timeline now, but we were in Chicago with Iggy, because he's a massive Iggy fan.
Yeah.
And he's come to, that's how I've got to know him so well, you know. He's come to loads of those gigs, and then the Gutterdämmerung thing as well. But the first time we kind of met him, we were in Chicago at this Riot Festival, and I look side stage, and there's Henry. Mm-hmm. And oh shit, it's Henry Rollins, you know what I mean? You expect him to be the most intense kind of guy that will look into your soul, whip it out, spit and stamp on it, and tell you you're not worthy. But so I've got this kind of persona of who he is, and he's side stage, and he's got like a book, a notebook, and he's jotting down, he's making notes, and I'm playing shit, and he's literally watching, seeing what's going on, writing down, and I'm thinking, this is oh my god, what's he writing?
Yeah, what's he saying about me?
Really shit. Looks like a pussy. He's kind of got, you know. We're all a little bit off-put by this, and then we got to meet him afterwards, and. I don't know if you know, but he records every gig he goes to. He takes notes. Right. So he'll say, oh, you guys play so different in that middle eight. That was incredible. Wow. And he was written it down. And he could talk about gigs he went to 20 years ago.
Wow.
But he's a real... When I think of Henry, I think of a sweet guy. A sweet guy who you can have breakfast with and talk for 4 hours.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and have your mind blown. But he's just... I've got to know him as... Henry, who's on the side stage watching the gig with Iggy.
Yeah, yeah.
And to a lot of other people, he's just like rightly so. He's a legend in many ways. But he's Henry to us.
Yeah, wicked.
Sweet guy. He's a little bit geeky. It takes a while to relax, but he definitely became part of the Iggy family with the new band, because it's just like, no, I'll go give him a hug. I'm not sure if he kind of knows what to do with that, but, you know... The more people don't like me hugging them, the more I'm going to do it.
Exactly, yeah, exactly.
I love it. It's the same in kind of Belgium. A lot of the guys who got down were Belgian guys. So you could see them stiffen up, you know, when you got this kind of friendly touch.
Here comes the English people. Are they going to hug us?
Come on, guys, give me a hug. You know, I love freaking them out. Well, I mean, hopefully... when all this shit's down, man, we can hang out and eat a gig. You can hopefully start like a gym, and
that'd be awesome.
Hopefully Henry will be there, and he won't be doing weights because he doesn't do that.
Yeah, good. So anyway, changing continents. The Japanese artist Hotei,
yes,
that's how you pronounce it, isn't it? Now, I only have heard about him because Jeff Dugmore does a load of stuff with Japanese artists, and he's mentioned him in the past. Now, this guy, for obviously any Japanese viewers, we won't need any introduction at all, but he's like one of the biggest Japanese guitarists / singer-songwriters ever. How did that come about?
Well, that was also a one-off session, and then he's become friend. I've become friends with him since. How did that come about? That's a good question. I know how. So, can you remember? Have you heard? You must remember them. A band called Sig Sputnik.
Yeah, of course.
Now, the guitarist, a guy called Neil X, he's kind of on the scene in London. He's become a friend through a few different friends. And I played with Neil when we played with Mark Armand. Right. And on the Love. So Neil's kind of connected a lot of different people. Now, Neil is one of Hotei is a massive fan of Ziggy Sputnik.
Right.
You think of the hair and you look at Hotei's early career, it makes sense. So Neil and Hotei are really, really close. And I think Hotei heard of me via, I've got a few friends in Incognito, I don't know if you know that.
Right, okay, yeah.
And Bluey might have, I think, mentioned
I know Bluey.
Hotei. Yeah, I think he mentioned him to me, or me to, meet him a few years ago when he was looking for a rock drum and the session didn't quite come off then. And then he was doing some stuff for, I think it's a video game we did this track for. And Neil just told him about me again. So it was kind of out the blue. He obviously knew Iggy and just got the call and went down there and played with a guy called Mark Neary, a bass player, who just one of the most incredible musicians I've ever played with. And another one of these people that just, do you ever make a mistake? Does anything ever come out of you doesn't sound perfect? Yeah. I mean, he's big, tall, lanky, and he wears sandals, so that balances it out.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm way cooler than him. He's a complete geek, but he's way. I love to have this kind of ability. I got the call for that session, and we did it. Where was it? Metropolis. I think it's 2020. The track was called. Really cool, really fun. It was an interesting. Hotei's very tight. He's a really great guitarist. And I've been doing the whole Iggy thing, so I'm like a noisy rabble. You press record and this kind of racket comes out. But I think between those two approaches, we got a really good track. And I've kind of hung out with Hotei a lot since, because he hangs around that London scene quite a lot. I played with a guy called Mike Garson for a bit. I don't know if you heard of him. He was basically Bowie's #1 keyboard player. This guy is truly the most incredible musician I've ever played with. He kind of bends time.
Yeah.
I described him. And I hung out with Hotei at that as well. So I get to see him quite a lot. Really sweet guy, really great player, very focused. I mean, he lives in London. He's got his own little room at Metropolis as well.
Right.
I know Jeff played with him a lot as well.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, I think Steve Barney usually does it. Steve's a sweet guy.
I mean, a lot of people find this incredibly interesting, and I know from comments people do, because they're like, but how do you end up working with that person? So you mentioned Mark Almond. Obviously, he was a total legend as well.
Yeah.
So how did that come about? Was it again through?
Yeah, again from Neil, really. I mean, Mark's again. Yeah, pretty much anybody with any common sense is a fan of Iggy. So Iggy. Iggy. I call it dropping the Iggy bomb. Just pulling the clip off and dropping it, and all of a sudden everything gets a lot easier. Yeah. It's nothing to do with me, I'm just this bloke that plays with him. But if I pull the pin and let the bomb go off, it usually makes everything easier.
Yeah.
And that's definitely been. I found the repercussions of playing with Iggy in terms of work. People see me and Ben with Iggy quite a lot, and we've had gigs as a result of that. In fact, Johnny from Razorlight saw us at a French gig, I don't know, about 2 years ago, and took a shine to my drumming. So I think that's how we ended up doing the Razorlight thing for the last 2 tours. It really is. There's no you do this and you'll be successful.
No.
There's a lot to be said for nailing your personal skills, and learning how to get on with people. Yeah. That's not easy, No. Especially when you're young. You get it wrong. You're learning to be who you are as a person. And I don't know, I've definitely got better at just relaxing and wanting to get to know people and realising, putting everything in a bigger picture, getting on with people and have a good time, enjoying people's company, and then get to make music with them is fantastic. If something's meant to happen, it will. If it's not, it won't.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's some things you think, oh, that's going to be amazing, and it's like personalities maybe don't quite work or whatever. You had it with when you were in the band that got signed to Universal. It's like sometimes it doesn't work, but then if you carry on and you're stubborn enough and pig-headed enough and you love it enough, there's going to be some level, isn't there? I
think you have to. There's a lot to be said for being dogged about it. I'm lucky in as much as I'm perpetually positive, which, I'm sure can really wind the shit out of some people, I have my moments of being down, but generally, I'm just excited about most things and most people, and I see positive in most people and things. So that's done me no harm at all. It's not something I've chosen to do. It's just something that's kind of cursed with, and that's helped a lot. I mean, obviously, some people want to be in a band where they want to talk about death and dying, and but there's a lot to be said for just learning how to get on with people.
Yeah,
learn to listen, learn to be part of a team. I think that's for a drummer particularly, understanding that you are a cog. Even when you're part of a signed band and you're Ringo, you're part of a bigger thing. You'll create something together. And I think that's actually probably one thing I'm missing the most at the moment. For me, making music is being with other people. Yeah. Creating music together, even just rehearsing. But then obviously when you do it in a live situation, it's even better. But I miss creating with other people and that joint emotion, whether it be good, bad, or whatever.
Yeah,
I really, really miss that. You know.
Yeah, same. And that's there's been a lot of things punted at Ashcroft for like doing the virtual gigs and all this kind of stuff. And people tend, because he never answers his phone, so people tend to come to me, and then I pass it on. And he's like, well, it's not a real gig. Even though I'm missing it, I'm going to wait.
Yeah.
And it's like, maybe we could do some virtual recording. He's like, no, let's just wait.
Yeah.
Because it is that simple thing. And I was talking to Guy Pratt about it. I was talking to Adam about it, Yolanda Charles. I mean, everyone I've spoken to. Because we're all in this kind of similar position right now. It's like, well, a remote session might come in and you go, well, I'll do it or I won't do it. But even if you do it, and prior to lockdown, you'd occasionally do them, the experience is 10% of what it is when you're doing it with another human being.
Yeah, completely. And that's really true. And I think we have this energy has to go somewhere. And, just going, I'm not going to play, I'm not going to do that. I mean, I've not played anywhere near as much as I could or should have, I think, in this period. Because when it started, I was probably like everybody. I thought, well, okay, I want to become the best version of me. It's going to be fabulous. I'm going to be awesome, And that lasted maybe about a couple of weeks. And then it's like, it needs to be a reason for it.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm really understanding that more now. The reason for me picking up a pair of drumsticks is to create with other people.
Yes.
I played Ben, the bass player, came down last week and we had like a socially distanced kind of little writing session, and that was just this is, thank God, a human being. Because even when I practiced for hours on end as a youngster, that was for a reason to play with other people, searching for those moments that are just magic.
Yeah,
when it's right and it grooves and everyone's feeling good. That's why you practice for 6 hours. Yeah. Not because I want to. Well, I personally do. Not because I want to be fast.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's all bollocks.
It is all bollocks. Yeah.
So I mean, the only good thing that's kind of feeling like this coming out of this is I'm building a new studio. Right. So I'm hoping to have something tangible come out of this whole thing, and hopefully it's a reasonably big size as well. So I should be able to get a good drum sound. Right. So that's what I'm hoping to be the thing. How about you? Are you managed to work and do stuff, or?
Yeah, I mean, we've been doing all these talks. I mean, we originally started them face to face, and we got about 3 away, and then lockdown happened. And then all the usual stuff. We got a load of cancellations with all the shows, as we all know.
Yeah, sure.
In the meantime, I just signed to Various Artists Management.
Oh, cool, man.
I've known John, who's one of the people who run it. I've known him for donkey's years, and he was just like, do you need someone to represent you? And I thought, well, I've never had a manager. I mean, I've had a manager when I've been in bands, and I work with managers, but I've never had a manager for writing, production, remixes, co-writes, anything. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, okay, cool. So there's going to be a fair bit of that stuff coming in as well. So
that's great, mate. That's fantastic.
Well, but I'm very much like you. I only ever pick up my basses if I bought a new one. Which I bought a new one last week, only because my wife liked the way it looked. I don't need another one. I've got like too many.
None of us need another instrument. That's just not say that out loud.
No, exactly. And so I played that for a couple of hours, but I only ever pick up a bass if I'm about to do something, or I'm recording, or we're rehearsing for something, or I think, oh shit, I better work that out. I can't remember how that goes. When I was a kid, play for hours just so you could actually be okay, and then it's all about doing it for a reason,
Yeah, completely. And I mean, I'm as I've got older, I've realised that I'm very much like that. There's a reason behind most things I do. I don't do much because, hey, wouldn't that be fun to do that? It's like, no, I'm doing that because I want to get to this thing or be this person or get, achieve this. And I'm kind of getting to peace with that now. I like that chase and that journey as much as the location sometimes. But without that place to be, it's like, well, why am I'm not going to post clips of me on Instagram, check out playing a drum cover, and the whole glut of people understandably posting about remote lessons, remote sessions, and completely understand that, but I just don't want to do that,
No.
So I'll post stuff about them when we've got gigs, but I barely post anything for months now, and I'm at peace with that. I'm not desperate to put stuff up if I'm not doing anything.
Yeah.
Just getting through this kind of crazy time at the moment, and yeah, man, it'll be cool. I've got to hope it will be. I mean, all the Iggy gigs are booked pretty much for next year that were booked this year. But even that is still, Henry Iggy's Magic. We're talking about America today, funny enough, and what's going on there. Even that's still kind of up in the air, and that's insane. It's almost too big a kind of consequence to try and let in. Yeah, I think you almost want to just sit at the back of your head and I'm going to hang out with the doctor for a couple of hours and everything's going to be cool, man.
Exactly.
Doctor, man, how cool is it to sign off Dr. Damon? I mean,
I do love it.
You could do like a kind of sexual health clinic or something. Sexual health with Dr. Damon. I mean, that must be good to do that. You must enjoy that.
It's annoying when I get a letter comes to the post and it says Mr. Minchella. I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake. 7 years work to get to that. But one of the funniest moments was doing a festival in Helsinki with Ashcroft. And I flew out separately because everyone else was coming from London. I was coming from Cardiff Airport via a different route. And they'd got a driver and he had his iPad to pick me up. And they'd already had a word and it said, Dr. Minchella, PhD, and he was holding up like that when I came out into arrivals. I'm like, yes.
Oh, are you looking for Doc? That's me. That's me. Yes, that's me. Yes.
And the poor guy was
looking for a voice, doctor. You have to go slightly different, more kind of serious.
So the guy looked at me and he obviously thought, "What sort of doctor are you?"
You're like a doctor of rock and roll.
Exactly.
Doesn't get much better than that.
Doesn't get much better.
I've got envy. I'm gonna have to kind of do similar now, so I can sign off the same. No, it's really impressive, man. You kind of to do something like that as well as being so busy and playing so much. I love that. I love the thought of just being crazily beavering away at doing a million things all at the same time, and that appeals to my kind of personality as well. So good on you, man. It's fantastic.
Thank you very much. Now, obviously, I won't take much more of your time. If you could pick 3 records that you say have completely influenced you as either a musician, a human being, or both. It's a tough one, but basically, not necessarily your 3 favourite records, but 3 records that have been with you on your journey from getting into music and where you are now.
Hot Than July is the first one. Stevie. It's just mainly because I was a young musician, actually a young guy, and one of my first girlfriends, her dad had like 1 million records, and I wasn't really a musician at that point. I was quite young, early teens, and just putting that on and starting to discover the soul and groove and the magic that is Stevie. Yeah, that I just played that round and round and round, and that it's just something sunny about that, and his voice. On that whole album, I still remember that feeling of the connection to music, and and happy memories of being a kid and having your first girlfriend, and all the good things that come with that. If you know what I mean. So it was a happy time for me in many departments and different parts of my body. So it's a happy time. So that's probably that album. Nevermind, man. That just. It's got to be that. It's got to be up there. Mainly because listening to Grohl play so many fills that sound like licks, that sound like not licks, hooks. Yeah. I had an interesting conversation with a bass player friend of mine, and we were both saying the same thing, that he could play something. His fills, people remember the feels like they remember a song hook, and that and the sound, you know, the sound Fig got on that album, it's just, you know, I've only recently got my record player back and was listening to that again. It still blows my mind, the sound on that album. The intensity, the intent that Grohl plays with on that album still kind of blows my mind. Just an insane drummer. I'm not so crazy on the Foos, if I'm honest.
No.
It's a bit McDonald's rock. Whereas, I mean, who can't reference Nirvana as being important?
Yeah.
There's so many albums I could kind of list. Probably, do you have Roxy and Elsewhere? It's a live Frank Zappa album.
No, right, okay.
Right, that's worth checking out. You know what? I've got a million records that I could kind of drop from the Stranglers to kind of Steely Dan to every extreme. Mm-hmm. I'm just kind of thinking of what I'm listening to at the moment as well, and what I'm buying again. Mm-hmm. Roxy and Elsewhere's got it's got 2 drummers on it, which I know sounds just like appalling. That's just like, what? Hello. But there's something about listening to Zappa as a young man playing live. Mm-hmm. That was the first time I was introduced to Zappa, and his intellect still fascinates me, and his perception on the modern world then was prophetic, you know, beyond comparison, I think. And he was so correct in so many ways. So the whole album just makes me smile. It reminds me, again, it's probably these records are mainly about me being young, you know, and being young and starting to play and getting excited about music. And all 3 of them are very different in different ways. But I do like the fact that I love so many different kind of styles of music. I think that served me pretty well. So
yeah, same. And I mean, we had a flood. Well, we had 2 floods recently because I live near Mono Valley Studios in Rockfield, where you've got the Mono Valley. So we flooded twice. But after the first flood, got the record player redone. I got a better one. Had to buy a load more vinyl, and now I'm listening to so many records I haven't heard for years, and they remind me of my childhood. They remind me of what I got excited about in life and what I fell in love with about music. And that's why I've been asking most people I'm talking to, you know, pick a few records. And everyone picks them and they go, well, yeah, because it was just so exciting and blah, blah, blah. Which is the sort of thing I want to get across to people. Not necessarily I want to educate the YouTube generation, but it's that thing about an album. It's about that experience of that piece of art.
No, it's incredible. And you know what's really encouraging is that I gave a lecture, I don't know, about a year ago to a load of business students. I had to cover this lecture for a business lecture guy talking about distribution, I think it was. And we were talking about records. And I said, you know, how many of you guys own a record player? And these guys, I don't know, 16 to 18, and half the class put their hands up.
Right.
And I was like, what? You know, you guys are way cooler than most people my age, people just rediscovering vinyl. So I think kids are starting to find that again. Uh-huh. But there's definitely something about, you know, you can listen to music so easily on your phone, in the car, but getting a record, looking at it, reading it, sitting down and listening to it properly, not just in the background, not passive listening, really taking it in, that is untouchable. Yeah. And the record player definitely, you know, it's not ones and zeros. No. You know, it's real sound waves. Yeah. That does something very different, and I'd encourage anybody and everybody that has a good record player to do it, because it's just magical. It definitely, when I started listening to records, it connected me so much more. Yeah. You know, it's a beautiful thing to put it on there, the crackle. Yeah. You know, it's just so romantic. It's like making good coffee.
Yeah, oh, totally. Yeah, exactly. What a great way. It's dead easy to get yourself a Nescafe, or if you can be bothered to get the coffee machine out, do it properly. Yeah. It's the process as well. You enjoy it so much more because you've actually gone, paid attention, and you get a reward.
It's just so much nicer, completely. Don't start with coffee. That's a whole other. That's a whole other session. But it doesn't take a lot of effort to make good coffee, listen to good music, and if you do it together, I mean,
exactly.
There's nothing better than that, is there? Yeah. Maybe it's wine, but.
Yeah, true. I have to ask you this. This is the last question, and this is if I don't, you'll get drum nerds going. Nah. Right, what if you could only have one out of all the drums you've got? Save one thing in a fire. Okay, it's a virtual fire, so I don't want you to go away thinking, "Oh my God, my drums!" What would it be? What would it be, and why?
Okay, it's not even my drum.
Well, even better.
No, so it's not even my drum. So it would have to be. So I've got to explain this quickly. Josh, Iggy's long-time roadie, he's been with Iggy for forever. Last year lent me this silver chrome kit that Scott Ashton with the Stooges used to play. They played on a couple of gigs. It's a 26-inch kick drum. It's a chrome-covered kit. We did a gig with Queens of the Stone Age, and even John Theodore, we were chatting about this kit. He was like dribbling at it as well. This bass drum is just like, it's like if you imagine Thor and God playing a bass drum. That's what this kick sounds like. It's just, it's the most beautiful thing, and it's all. I put a mirrored skin on the front of it as well.
Wicked.
It just, you can see Iggy in my bass drum skin, and the bass drum just. There's nothing that probably, I don't know what's the equivalent for a bass player, just hitting that low just resonating. Something about that bass drum just makes me glad to be alive.
Love it.
And that's what I've grabbed. Because it's also not mine, it's 26-inch and you can see yourself in it.
Exactly, the perfect reasons.
There you go.
Did you play that one at the Isle of Wight when I saw you?
I think I had an old... I think I might have the Black Oyster, actually, funny enough, because I think they're playing that Isle of Wight festival recently. They played that set. So, no, it's just, unfortunately, it's a normal 22-inch kit.
Right.
Hopefully one day you'll get to see this bass drum. Hopefully one day we'll get to play together.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Be even cooler.
Yeah.
And you can feel this bass drum, and you better look at yourself in it as well, and you'll fall in love with it like me. Yeah, it's an old Ludwig, by the way, as well. It's a Ludwig 26-inch by 40-inch kick bass drum.
Wow. Well, just quickly about drums, even though I'm not a drummer, but I'm surrounded by drums, and I've been mates with Steve White for a long time, so I know a lot about drums. We went to this drum shop in Chicago, which is it's really famous amongst the drum community, and they had a kit that was made for Buddy Rich there.
Oh.
Right, and it's had the white stool, the cylindrical stool and everything. I sat down and played a kit that Buddy Rich had played. And even as a bass player, I was like, oh my God, this is fucking amazing.
Well, and especially the way Steve plays as well, I bet that kit sang. See, that's what's important as much as anything, If we really boil down some of these instruments, they sound great, but bass guitar's a bass guitar within reason, a drum kit's a drum kit within reason. But having some emotion within the wood of these instruments, and some memories, and some history, and life in those instruments, that makes the player feels special.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Was that bass? You see that bass there?
What is that?
It's a Gibson, but it was in Queens of the Stone Age for a couple of years, which is the only reason why I bought it.
That's well having it. Man, those guys are serious.
Yeah.
What? See that? But that's it. That's magic, isn't it?
That's why I got it.
I'm going to get geeky quickly, but I'm with this guy who makes called Repercussion Drums, and he makes drums out of bits of wood with mega history.
Right.
I've got a snare. I used a snare drum that he made for a while. So every bit of wood's either come from Glastonbury or some weird crazy place, and he made a snare drum out of a bit of wood from San Quentin prison.
Oh my God!
So every and something about that, just playing this drum where the place that Johnny Cash was.
Yeah, I was going to say Johnny Cash, isn't it?
That kind of shit, musicians are suckers for that.
Yeah, of course we are.
That connection. So I'm glad that bass sounds mental, man.
It does, yeah. Well, I love that, because as musicians, and to even actually embark on this career and maintain it, we've got to be romantic and dreamers. That's why.
Yeah, we need to not all be normal.
Yeah, exactly.
And I like being a bit weird in some ways, and as musicians, as creative people, we need to push the envelope of being idiots. Yeah, and being a bit crazy and getting romantic and emotional and going back to what I'm missing that connection.
Yeah,
that emotional thing that us musicians have got. We're all in touch with our delicate selves, aren't we?
Absolutely. Even if we're being inwardly delicate while smashing the shit out of something in front of tens of thousands of people.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like I'm smashing the shit out of it. It looks like I'm aggressive, but ultimately that's a demonstration of love.
Perfect. Right, on that note, virtual round of applause for Mr. Mat Hector.
Thank you, guys. Thanks so much for having me, man.